In July of 1863, the quiet town of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, became the stage for the bloodiest battle of the American Civil War. For 3 days, the Union and Confederate forces clashed in the fields and streets, leaving behind a staggering toll of death and destruction. The ground itself seemed to drink in the horror. Thousands buried in shallow graves, many never identified. And some believe that the trauma has been imprinted in the very soil. One of the most haunted spots is the Devil's Den, a rocky outcrop where sharpshooters once took over. Visitors often report cameras malfunctioning here, batteries draining instantly, and an eerie feeling of being surrounded. Several witnesses have encountered a barefoot man in a floppy hat, described as friendly but strange, who gives them directions, only to vanish when they turn back. The wheat field saw some of the most brutal fighting of the battle. Changing hands 6 times in a single day, locals have nicknamed it the Field of Death. People claim to hear the faint cracks of musket fire, the shouting commands of officers, and cries of the wounded, though the field stands empty. At night, swirling mists have been seen moving against the wind, sometimes taking the shape of soldiers. Just outside town, the sacks-covered bridge is said to be the final resting place for 3 Confederate soldiers who were hanged for spying. On quiet nights, visitors have seen the floating heads of executed men drifting above the bridge's wooden floor. Others report footsteps following them, even when they're alone, and the sound of boots striking the boards in perfect marching rhythm. During the first day of battle, the railroad cut became a death trap when Union forces surrounded hundreds of Confederate soldiers. Today, the deep trench echoes with phantom voices. Paranormal teams have captured EVPs of soldiers moaning in pain and calling for help. Some visitors have seen ghostly bayonets glinting in the sun, only to vanish a second later. Gettysburg is unique because its spirits don't always behave like echoes. Some encounters seem interactive, phantom soldiers making eye contact or entire regiments marching into the distance and disappearing into thin air. Tour guides tell of guests who have taken photographs of the fields, only to later find strange, semi-transparent figures standing among the monuments. Walking these grounds at dusk, with the cicadas quiet and the fog rising, it's easy to believe you're not alone. The same wind that brushes your face might have once carried the final breaths of the men who never went home. Some come to pay respects, others come to chase the shadows, but nearly everyone leaves with a story. Gettysburg was the turning point of the nation's most brutal war, but for the spirits, it continues to rage on. Opened in Philadelphia, 1829, the Eastern State Penitentiary was a prison unlike any other. Its design, radial cell blocks stretching like spokes of a wheel, was meant for one purpose: complete isolation. Inmates lived alone in small stone cells with a single skylight, the Eye of God. Meant to inspire penitents, they were hooded whenever they left their cells, forbidden from speaking to anyone. For many, this silence was more than punishment. It was madness. For over 140 years, the prison held thousands of inmates, including famous names like Al Capone. In his cell, Capone claimed to be haunted by the ghost of a man he had killed, a figure he called Jimmy, who would never let him sleep. Guards and prisoners alike spoke of hearing whispers in empty corridors, seeing shadowy shapes moving just outside the reach of lantern light. Cell Block 12 is infamous among investigators. This long, echoing hallway has been the site of disembodied laughter, loud bangs, and pacing footsteps when no one was inside. Some have even seen a dark figure dart from one cell to another, only to find the cells completely empty. Visitors often describe feeling as though someone is right behind them, breathing down their neck. In Cell Block 4, shadows are known to drift along the walls, stretching and twisting unnaturally. More than one guard has admitted to refusing to patrol it alone. During one modern investigation, a team captured an EVP of a deep voice saying, "Leave now," just seconds before the camera equipment shut off on its own. The prison's old hospital wing still holds rusted medical tables and dusty cabinets of surgical tools. Here, visitors report hearing the metallic clink of instruments being moved. Some say they've even seen ghostly forms in tattered hospital gowns, standing in the doorways, watching silently. Others have felt sudden stabbing pains in their arms or legs, phantom sensations with no explanation. Even the open spaces aren't safe from the paranormal. The exercise yard has been the scene of full-bodied apparitions, men in outdated prison uniforms shuffling with their heads down. And from the watchtower, staff reported strange lights moving through the cell blocks at night, long after the prison closed in 1971. Today, the penitentiary operates as a historic site and haunted attraction, but its paranormal activity hasn't stopped. Ghost hunters from around the world visit in hopes of capturing proof, and many leave with chilling EVPs, unexplained shadows, and the feeling that they've been watched the entire time. Some believe Eastern State's design itself traps energy. The thick stone, the endless corridors, the echoing chambers. Whether it's the guilt of the prisoners or the cruelty of the system, something here refuses to fade. The penitentiary was built to keep its inmates inside forever. Maybe, just maybe, it succeeded. Hill View Manor began its life in 1926 as the Lawrence County home for the aged and infirm. It wasn't a hospital. It was a place for people who had nowhere else to go. The elderly, the mentally ill, and those with no family ended their days here. Over the decades, the building saw hundreds of deaths. Some were peaceful, others not so much. One of Hill View Manor's most famous spirits is Jeffrey, believed to be the ghost of a young boy who once lived here. Staff and visitors say Jeffrey is mischievous and unpredictable. People claim to have felt small hands tug at their clothing. Balls have been rolled across empty rooms, but the most chilling part, old staff members claim that seeing Jeffrey was an omen, that someone in the building would soon pass away. The second floor is where many investigators feel the most tension. Doors slam shut in rooms that haven't been touched in years. Disembodied voices call out names, sometimes the real names of visitors currently there, drawing them towards the far end of the hallway. In one chilling account, a paranormal team set up a camera in room 209. Hours later, when reviewing the footage, they saw a shadow figure move across the wall without a sound. Another well-known spirit is Mary, or Aunt Tina. A former resident who had no family became close to the staff. Even after her passing, visitors still sense her presence, especially near her old room. Investigators have captured EVPs of a woman's voice softly saying, "Hello," and some claim to smell her perfume lingering in the air. At night, Hillview takes on an entirely different personality. In the basement, whispers travel between rooms as if residents are still talking to each other. Investigators describe sudden bursts of icy air sweeping past them, even when no windows are open. On the top floor, shadowy figures are seen peeking around corners, only to vanish when approached. One investigator described feeling a cold hand grip their wrist, pulling them towards the room that was completely empty. With so many deaths on site, the air inside Hillview feels heavy. Some believe these spirits don't know they've passed on. Others think they're simply attached to the only home they ever knew. The building doesn't just hold ghosts. It holds stories. Stories of loneliness, friendship, and lives that faded away in quiet rooms. Today, Hillview Manor opens its doors to paranormal investigators from around the country. Many leave with EVPs, strange photographs, or that gut feeling that they were being watched. Some come for the thrill, others come seeking proof, but everyone leaves remembering the silence and the sense that they weren't alone. Hillview Manor cared for the living for nearly 80 years. Now it seems it's the dead who call it home. The Pennhurst Asylum opened in 1908 as the Eastern Pennsylvania State Institution for the Feeble-Minded and Epileptic. It was supposed to be a safe haven. Instead, it became a place of overcrowding, neglect, and despair. By the mid-20th century, more than 4,000 residents were crammed into its stone halls. Some were born with disabilities, others were simply unwanted by their families. For many, Pennhurst became the last stop they would ever know. Beneath the buildings lies a maze of underground tunnels connecting wards, kitchens, and morgues. Staff once used them to move patients unseen, but today investigators say the tunnels are one of the most active paranormal hotspots. Visitors report footsteps echoing in the darkness, cold spots so sharp they burn, and shadowy figures darting just out of flashlight range. Some even hear faint rattle of gurney wheels rolling over tile, long after Pennhurst closed its doors. One of the most feared structures is the Mayflower Building, where the most aggressive activity is said to happen. Doors slam without warning. Disembodied voices call out names, sometimes the actual names of visiting investigators. In one well-known account, a paranormal team captured a clear EVP of a child's voice saying, "Help me," moments before the team's EMF meter spiked into the red. Staff who worked here in the later years spoke of residents who wandered the halls endlessly, confused and alone. Today, their spirits are said to linger, replaying moments of fear, longing, and despair. Visitors have reported apparitions in patient uniforms staring silently from the doorways. Others have seen a small boy peeking from around corners, vanishing the instant you notice him. However, it's not just what you see, it's what you feel. People describe walking into certain rooms and being hit with waves of sadness or dread so intense they have to leave. Today, Pennhurst operates partly as a haunted attraction, but it also allows serious overnight investigations. Those who come seeking proof often leave with more questions than answers. Unexplained knocks, whispers in the dark, sudden bursts of icy air, even the sensation of unseen hands brushing against your arms. These are reported not just by thrill seekers, but by seasoned paranormal teams. One story tells of a guide leading a small group through the tunnels when every flashlight flickered out at once. In the pitch black, the group heard sounds of dozens of footsteps rushing past them, though the tunnel was empty. When the lights returned, the air was heavy, and the group swore they could still hear faint crying from somewhere deep below. Pennhurst was built to protect society's most vulnerable, but instead, it became their prison. Some claim that, even now, they wander the halls in anguish. In 1973, Jack and Janet Smurl, a hard-working young couple, moved into a modest side-by-side duplex at 328 Chase Street in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. Jack's parents lived on one side and the young couple and their daughters lived on the other. West Pittston was quiet, the kind of place where everyone knew their neighbors, but the Smurls say their new home hid something dark, something waiting. At first, it was subtle. Tools vanished from the garage, faucets turned on by themselves, a smell of rotting garbage so strong it could make you sick seemed to seep from the walls and then vanish without explanation. Within months, the activity grew. Jack and Janet heard footsteps pacing the halls when everyone was in bed. Doors slammed with enough force to rattle the glass. The dog began to bark at empty corners, its hair standing on end. By the late 1970s, the haunting turned violent. The family reported their dog being thrown into a wall by an invisible force. Their daughters were pushed and scratched, sometimes waking with bruises they couldn't explain. One night, Janet awoke to find herself pinned to the bed by something unseen, its weight crushing her chest, its breath hot on her face. Jack later described his own encounter: a hag-faced woman with red eyes, green gums, and a young woman's body straddled him before vanishing into thin air. Even people outside the family began to take notice. Neighbors claimed they heard shouting, foul language, and banging coming from an empty section of the duplex when they knew no one was home. The Smurls would later say the thing inside the house wasn't just haunting them, it was trying to break them. Desperate for help, in January 1986, the Smurls contacted the Warrens, a husband and wife paranormal team. They claimed to sense an overwhelming dark energy. Their conclusion: the duplex was home to 4 entities: an elderly woman, a young violent girl, and a man who had died there, and a powerful demon that commanded them all. The Warrens arranged for priests to enter and bless their home. During one blessing, Jack felt the temperature drop so sharply he could see his breath. Mirrors rattled violently, a deep guttural growl rolled through the rooms. Furniture was thrown, objects flew off shelves. One night, As Jack prayed in the living room, a dark, shadowy mass formed right in front of him, swirling like smoke before surging towards him. The Smurls claim that the activity didn't stop. Even when they left the house for work or family visits, it followed them, appearing in hotel rooms and even Jack's parents' half of the duplex. The family lived in fear for more than a decade, sleeping with the lights on, bracing for the next attack. They said there were nights where they didn't know if they would survive until morning. In 1989, after years of torment, a church-sanctioned exorcism was performed. The Smurls said that after this, the activity finally ceased. They moved to a new home in Wilkes-Barre, hoping for peace at last. Today, the Chase Street duplex still stands, ordinary to the eye, but to the Smurls, it was once a battlefield where they fought something no one else could see, but everyone in the house could feel. Would you spend the night at 328 Chase Street?
Yeah, man, what's up? What's going on? I'm home right now. What?